Hi, everyone. I think we have a good number so we can get started. My name's Noelle. I'm part of the residency committee. Thank you all for coming today. Just wanted to, um, welcome to this. We're doing a talk on financial planning. Essentially, we called it Stethoscopes and Savings. And we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Akwasi Opoku, who has completed radiology residency and is now a breast imaging fellow in Texas. And he has very graciously offered his time and his expertise to give us some tips. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Akwasi Opoku.
Thank you very much, Noel. Hi, everybody. My name is Akwasi Opoku. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and thank you for spending your lovely Easter Sunday with me. I will try to be brief and succinct. That way we can all get back to spending time with our family as soon as possible. I'm going to share my screen. If you can't hear me, please do let me know. All right. Please let me know if you do see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I've titled this presentation A Physician's Guide to Finance. I do have a few objectives for all of us. That way we can take something away um, as we've gathered. By the end of this session, hopefully everyone should be able to apply some core financial principles to manage income transitions, budgeting, and early wealth building with after residency. Be able to evaluate some key financial decisions, including student loan payment strategies, job selection, and contract negotiation. And then be able to implement some fundamental investing and protection strategies, including retirement accounts, stock market investing, insurance, and tax advantage tools such as HSAs. I do have to add this disclaimer. This presentation is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended to serve as financial, legal, or tax advice. If you do need any of these help, please do seek out a qualified professional. This is only for educational purposes. I have no disclosures, no conflicts of interest, other than wanting all of you to be financially successful. As we are all aware, medical school is increasingly becoming more and more expensive. In this past academic year, in the 04-05 year, the average tuition cost was $41,869. And that is if you were at a public institution and if you were a resident in the state that the institution was in. If you went to a private institution in that state, your tuition bill was a little higher at $67,000. And then if you went to school at a place where you were considered a non-resident, even higher at 66 and 68,000 respectively. And over the years, we've seen this trend, this upward trend. Back in 2013, the average tuition and fees was 46, and now we're up to 59. And guess what? The large amount of money is being borrowed and is being lended to us at rapidly increasing interest rates. As we speak, we are sitting around 7.9. Now, back in 2001, 2002, people were getting these interests for 1 to 2%. And when I graduated from medical school not too long ago, in 2020, mine was roughly 6.0%. And these loans are unsubsidized, meaning As you go through medical school, as you go through residency, interest is accumulating on them. And the trend is not stopping anytime soon. In 2029 to 2030, medical students are expected to pay roughly $66,000, the average medical school. And then the total cost is expected to be roughly $257,000. And this is minus the cost of undergraduate degree. Some of us who went through post-bachelor or post-bac programs, or went and got master's degrees, the cost is even higher. And to add to that, the physician pay is decreasing. Maybe not nominally, but the real purchasing power is decreasing. According to an AMA study that was performed last year, approximately, they estimate that there's been about 33% decline in physician pay from 2001 all the way to 2025. So even though the overall values are increasing, the nominal pay, the real purchasing power has significantly dropped. Additionally, there have been reimbursement cuts despite rising cost of operating. The Medicare conversion factor has decreased since 2020. That was 5 years ago, approximately 10%. And that is the factor that they use to calculate RVUs and how much you get for each study or each patient that you see. Practice costs are rising. Cost more to hire staff, for rent, for malpractice insurances. So with costs being up, reimbursements going down, meaning that margins are slimmer than they've ever been. Additionally, productivity is up. More and more is required of physicians. We are working more, seeing more patients. We're performing more procedures, reading more studies if you're a fellow radiologist, And in this environment, you earn more by doing more, not necessarily because the service that you're providing is paying more, it's actually paying less. And as I mentioned, inflation is similar or rising, meaning that your real income has been stagnant or declining over the years. So whatever 2% increase you may get from year to year may actually represent a cut, a pay cut when you factor in inflation. And then additionally, there are increasing liability and regulatory costs. We live in a sue-happy society. People will sue you for sometimes not very good reasons. But with all of that being said, medicine still remains a high income profession. But it is not a high margin profession anymore. It is no longer a guaranteed pathway to riches. We all know physicians, and there are thousands of them living around the country from hand to mouth or paycheck to paycheck. And so making solid financial decisions, especially as a medical student and resident, becomes crucial. And despite the challenges that we face, physicians can still practice medicine and do the job they love and still achieve financial independence and freedom. Yes, you can still win with money and live the good life. And as far as what the good life is, it differs for every one of us. So if there are any pre-medical or medical students here, I want you to leave with something. But this talk is mainly geared towards residents and fellows. For our medical students and pre-med folks out there, apply to medical school correctly the first time. Yes, it does matter. Get good advice, submit application early, be meticulous about it. Be careful about taking time off if you don't have to. Sometimes the path requires that we do post back or do research. If that's the case, that's fine. But just keep in mind, the longer you are out of the system, the greater your opportunity cost. And that cost is lost earnings of peak earnings. It's not just the cost of a residence salary, it's the cost of peak earnings. So if you were to become a surgeon and you're earning 500,000 a year and you spent 2 years doing a postback, the cost there is $1 million. So 500,000 times two. In general, attend the least expensive medical school that you can get into. Don't pursue military or MD, PhD pathways solely for financial reasons. You should pursue them because you are called to do so, not because of money. And as a general advice, live frugally as a medical student. You are living on borrowed money. Nobody expects a medical student to be rich. So live as such. And this is probably the best piece of advice here for medical students. Finish medical school. You don't get anything for going halfway through, for going through quarters of the way through. You only come out with a degree if you finish it. So make sure you graduate at all cost. And then when choosing a specialty, don't ignore the lifestyle and income consideration. Too many of us don't even think about this. If you're choosing between two specialties, both that you find equally fulfilling, and one pays higher than the other, maybe you should give the one that pays higher some more thought. Um, Sometimes we overlook this when before, and by the time we start thinking about it, it's a little too late. Now, for my residents, residency is the time to learn. It's not the time to make money. Your main focus should be learning how to be a great doctor. And as we go through training, we all know we spend very, very little time in graduate medical education on finance or money. Your personal finance should not consume a great deal of your time in residency. If you set a few things in motion, you know, you can sort of set it and forget it type of thing and not look back. But there are some crucial things that must be taken care of when you're in residency. The first is you must learn to live on a budget. You've gone from borrowing, tens and tens of thousands in medical school, and now all of a sudden you have a regular salary. It's the first time we're getting a regular salary, and that demands a plan. And for some of us, we see budget as a limitation. And if you find it difficult to live on a budget, perhaps think about budgeting as paying yourself first and then spending the rest of the money afterwards. It's the same outcome, the same effect as budgeting. Number two, as a resident, learn to save. The practice of saving itself is more important than what is actually saved. It's all about the behavior aspect of things. Winning with money is not, is I would say at least 50 to 70% psychological, your behavioral aspect. Then again, I firmly believe there's no reason for a resident to be living on borrowed money. I know emergencies come up, but when you have a budget in place and you have an emergency fund, you should be able to restore withstand some of these unexpected things that come up. And we'll talk more about that in the slides to come. Budgeting and learning how to save. So the median resident salary is roughly 70,000 right now. Can range from 85 to 65 to 85, depending on where you are in your training. Now, the median income in the US is 62K. And for the median household income, it's about 73 to 83. So, as a resident, you're not making, you know, too much less than what the average household income is making. We often consider ourselves poor, which is true relative to what our attendants are getting paid. We are poor compared to them. But compared to the general population, we are not poor. We're actually far above the poverty limit. And as I mentioned, don't see budgeting as a limitation, a list of do's and don'ts. If you do that, you will get demoralized, but rather you should see it as a plan of action to help you achieve your goals. And the easiest way to start on a budget is just write down what you spent last month. If you are happy with where the money is going, and that is where you intend for your money to go, you have nothing to do. However, if there is a big disconnect between where the money is going and where you want it to go, then you need to make adjustments. And as I said, it's a process for realigning your behavior with your financial goals. Many tools are available to help you do that. Good old pen and paper, Excel sheets, those are not popular. And even less popular is cash in envelopes. People still do that. There are apps available like the Monarch, Mint, Every Dollar app that can help you get started on that. And my personal challenge to each one of you is live on less than you make. So if you're making 70 grand, my recommendation is to live on 65 and save that 5. The actual amount doesn't really matter, but it's more so the habit of learning to save. There is no reason why you cannot start building wealth in residency. And keep in mind, the first dollars that you save have the longest amount of time for compound interest to work on them. When we compare ourselves to our colleagues who, after undergrad at age 20, 21, 22, went straight into a job, their dollars that they invested have now, maybe 10 years of time on us, right? And we've not even started investing yet. So if the first dollars that you save or invest are crucial. Those will be the dollars that do your heavy lifting in your financial portfolio. Secondly, I will challenge you to do your very, very best not to buy a home. This is not popular advice. And I'll give you 5 reasons why I think you should not, or you should try not to buy a home. On average, the break-even point is 3 to 5 years, which matches the length of residency. The longer you stay in the house, the more equity that you build in it. So for those who are, in longer residencies, so my radiologists, my orthopedic surgeons, my surgeons, neurosurgeons, these may work out better for you all than for those of us who pursue internal medicine versus family medicine. You just have more time to build equity. Renting is the least, hassle option. It's easy getting in, it's easy maintaining it, and it's significantly less getting out of it. Imagine your last day of residency, you're currently living in New York, you have a fellowship across the country in California, and you can just simply turn in your apartment keys and fly across the nation and start your fellowship. When you own a house, you cannot do that. You have to sell the house, or you have to find someone to rent it out to, and that takes time. Secondly, most residents don't have a down payment. We just don't make enough to have a down payment for a house. You get a better deal on your mortgage when you have a 20% down payment. Most residents don't have that. You could use the physician loans, which provides you 100% of the value of your home, but that has some downsides. You're going to have higher interest rates than the conventional loan rates because it's higher risk to the lender. And then you have the opportunity cost of not investing since money is tied up in the house. Number three, owning a home is expensive. And we've all read the book, Things Fall Apart. And yes, they do fall apart. As soon as you buy a home and you move into it, things will break. They will not break before the inspection. They will break as soon as you move in. So owning a home is not cheap. So plan on spending approximately 5% of the value of the home to buy it, 10% to sell it, and 1 to 2% each year to maintain it. And don't make the mistake of simply just, comparing the mortgage and rent payments. That is a fool's errand. Um, a lot of things are not factored into that when you do that. Number four, attendants do not live in resident houses. There's a very, very high likelihood that you will not live in that same house as an attendant that you purchase as a resident. It's hard to predict the future, 3 to 5 years in advance, but you may decide you want to do a fellowship, and many fellowships have a match, meaning you have little control about where you go. You may have to move to another city for your job. Your family may grow in size. You may have kids. You may marry. You may have to find a different house. And overall, we get less content with the things that we have as time goes on. It's human nature. Number five, residents are busy. Like I said, this is the time for you to learn to be a great doctor, not a time for you to build wealth or become a fixer-upper. It costs time to buy, maintain, and sell a house. And you don't want to become an accidental landlord, or even worse, be paying for two mortgages at the end of residency. If you don't take anything away from this talk, and if you've not been paying attention, this is the time to pay attention. This is the stuff that matters. There are some things, some groundwork that you must do in residency, and that is ensuring against financial catastrophes. Bad things happen to, yes, even residents. Residents get in accidents. Residents become disabled, just like the rest of the general population. We are not immune to those things. Just because we provide healing
I did that.
to people does not mean we are immune to that. Life happens to us, even in residency. And so, the most important financial tax to accomplish during residency is to buy some critical insurances. This includes disability, life, and liability insurance. Early in residency, buy as large of a high quality, specialty specific, own occupation individual disability insurance policy as an agent is willing to sell to you. This is important. And there are a few definitions and a few terms that you must pay attention to. The first is own occupation. That means that you are considered disabled if you cannot perform the duties of your specific specialty, even though you can work another job. And then specialty specific is just a stronger version of own occupation. Coverage is tied to your exact trained specialty, not just being a physician. And then individual means this is a policy that you own, not the hospital. And it's portable, meaning when you finish residency and you go and do your fellowship, you can take it with you. Make sure that it includes what we call a cost of living adjustment rider, meaning over time, um, the benefit increases to keep up with inflation. Usually, this is around 3%. Make sure that you have future increase option rider, meaning when you become an attending, you can increase that disability amount to increase your coverage without undergoing medical underwriting. And yes, residents in our 30s can develop chronic conditions, so this is key. Get this done as soon as you can. Typical policy, usually as a resident, ranges from 5 to 7.5K per month. I spoke about this 3% cost of living adjustment. And usually they cost about 2 to 5% of the benefit policy. So you're looking roughly at $100 to $300 per month. It may seem like a lot, but should you find yourself disabled, you don't want to be without this. This is crucial. Additionally, if you have someone else depending on your income, so if you have a spouse, if you're married, if you have kids, you need to buy a 20 to 30-year term level premium life insurance. These are a whole lot cheaper than um, the disability insurance. As a resident, aim for 500K to $1 million policy. And make sure you name beneficiaries on the policy and let the beneficiaries be aware of the policy that you have. And as an attendee, you want to increase this amount to about $2 to $5 million. So your residency will take care of your malpractice insurance, but you can still have very high liability events occur outside of work. Attending physicians should carry umbrella policies with the limits within the $1 to $5 million range. And an umbrella policy, to explain it, is just a type of personal liability insurance that provides extra coverage beyond just the standard homeowner, auto, or boat policies. It protects your assets from major claims or lawsuits. And this is a bit more expensive, costs about $200 to $700 a year. And you may not want to spend that as a resident. You don't have to have this as a resident, but um, as a attending, make sure that you have this. And also be mindful when you become an attending, when you start searching for jobs and you're looking at particular state.
No,
Some state,
no. We should just her now first. Actually, she probably
some states,
Mute.
um I don't maybe I don't remember her saying that, but maybe they
so some residents may not want to spend this amount, but you do need this when you do become an attending. And then increase your auto and renter and homeowners policies to at least 300 to 500K. I know, it's an additional expense, but this stuff is important. You don't want to find yourself in a car accident and be underinsured. Make sure you have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a dedicated, easily accessible pool of cash reserved for unexpected financial crises such as job loss, medical emergencies, or urgent home/car repairs. These things happen inevitably. And it usually consists of about 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Your emergency fund should be able to last you if you do become disabled. The waiting period for your disability insurance to kick in. So that's from the time your disability occurs to the date that you start receiving the first payments. Your emergency fund should be able to cover that period. And how do you start? You can save some in cash at home, some in a high yield savings account. And that is what I recommend. Don't save it in your traditional savings account. So, for example, maybe I shouldn't say the bank's name, but in your traditional savings account, you're earning 0.01%. That means if you put $1,000 in over the course of a year, you are earning 10 cents. And guess what? The banks turn around, lend that 10%, and make large amounts of interest from that. If you keep it in a high yield savings account right now, the rates are between 4 and 5%. So if you kept $1,000 in that account, at the end of the year, you have $40 to go get yourself a nice meal at the end of the year. An emergency fund allows you and your family to not worry about the fluctuations in your investments. It gives you peace of mind. And we talked about the good life. Never having to worry about or fight about money is a key component of having the good life. Start saving and investing now. So I want to talk a little bit about Roth IRAs. IRA just stands for Individual Retirement Account. So the Roth account was instituted in 1997, named after Senator Bill Roth from Delaware. And then ever since then, different versions of Roths for 401 and 403Bs have also come up. Generally speaking, 401ks are for-profit organization, and then 403Bs are for non-for-profit organizations. So a retirement savings account funded with after-tax money. That's what the Roth is. So you've already paid taxes in it. And as a result, it grows tax-free, and you can have tax-free withdrawals with it. But there are some rules regarding what you can withdraw. So you can withdraw your contributions anytime, tax and penalty free. So if you put in $5,000 and it's grown to $7,000, you can't take that $5,000 out tax free. However, that extra $2,000 of profit or growth that has occurred cannot be withdrawn, and you get a penalty on it if you do withdraw that, right? But if you wait till 59 and a half, you can withdraw that tax-free also. There are some contribution limits. Right now for your Roth IRAs, it's 7,000. I believe next year is jumping up to 7.5. And if you're over 50, they do give you catch-up consideration. So yours is 8K and then 8.6 this year, 2026. And by the way, I think you can still make contributions to the Roth till the end of April, I believe. And generally speaking, residents should prioritize Roth contributions. Why is that? It's because this is the lowest tax bracket you will ever find yourself in. So it helps to pay the taxes now than when you're an attendant or even in retirement. If you manage everything right, your retirement income, whenever you choose to retire, is going to be more than whatever 65 or 75K that you're making this year. Additionally, we cannot predict taxes in the future. If you pay it off right now, it's good. I don't think they plan on lowering taxes anytime soon. So as a resident, it just makes more sense to prioritize Roth contributions. So here is a retirement account priority list for residents. If you're asking the question, what should I focus on right now? The first thing I would say is your Roth contributions up to the provided match. So for example, if you're making 60K, more than likely your employer has a match, meaning if you contribute 3%, we will match it up to that 3%. In my residency program, it was 5%. And you can't imagine the number of residents who never, contributed up to the match. If you don't do it, you're leaving money on the table. So for example, if you are making 60K and they match up to 3%, that's $1,800 a year that you're giving up. I know you're all generous, but I know you're not that generous to leave the hospital 1,800 each year. Over the course of 4 years, that is $7,200 that you've left on the table. That's nice pocket change. After you've done the match, if you don't have a rough option available, that is, if this does not apply, just contribute to whatever match that your employer providing your traditional 401k or 403b accounts. If you manage to do that, then try to max your Roth IRA. Most residents will not be able to do that, and that's okay. And like I said, it's not about, the amount matters little, but try to contribute something. And the max for this upcoming year is 7.5. If your spouse has, or if you do have a spouse, they too can have a Roth IRA. You can max that out too. And then you can max out the balance of that Roth, whatever is left. You can contribute beyond the match up to $23,000. And again, if the Roth option is not available, just max out that. And then lastly, 457 account, which I won't go into much detail about. It's just an additional employer-sponsored retirement savings plan. Most residents won't even be able to max this out, and that's okay. It's more so about the habit, not the amount of money. So don't feel bad about yourself if you're not maxing this out. Most residents are not, but do try to contribute something. And then I also encourage you all to learn about finance as you're going through your medical education. You spend your 20s, your 30s without making much money, but then all of a sudden, your income triples, quadruples, for some of us, even 10x. And guess what? You're left with no financial education. As I mentioned, GME does a poor job getting us prepared. They don't want us thinking about money. All they want us thinking about is how many admissions we can get, how quickly can we get our notes in. So we are poorly prepared to handle that sudden rise in income that we experience when we become attendants. So just as you are required to do CME when you are in residency, pursue financial education. Pay as much attention to contracting and billing as you can. However little of it you're exposed to, don't just ignore it. Have an idea of how much it costs a patient to stay overnight in an ER. When the patient tells you, I need to stay, I'm not feeling better, I need to stay an extra night, have an idea of what that actually means financially, not only to the hospital, but also to the patient. And then pay special attention to private attendants that you may encounter. They are working in a private practice setting, and what they deal with is very, very different from the academic attendant who just shows up and there's a salary at the end of the month. And then read, read, read. There are a lot of resources available. I have a couple of books here that I love. So, The White Coat Investor. When I was a medical student, someone that I went to college recommended this book to me, and it's been life-changing. And there's this one, The Boggles Head Guide to Investing. Try to read one of these books a year. One financial book a year. There are a lot of podcasts available. free of charge, YouTube, Spotify, that you can also pursue. Now, a little bit of warning about financial advisors, especially for those of you who are getting close to the end of your training. All of a sudden, you will start seeing emails from all these financial advisors or firms. Hey, we would love to take you out for a dinner. Dinner is on us. We just want to talk about student loan repayments and wealth management and whatever. Just come join us. And some of these may be genuine, great financial advisors, but I want you to be aware of those who are predatory. They know that doctors are, um, largely financially illiterate. And there are terms like, you know, it's this investment is so bad that only a doctor would buy it, you know. So protect yourself. There's nothing wrong with seeking financial advice, but I believe it should come at a fair price. And the advice should be both good and beneficial. If you do decide to get a financial advisor, figure out how they are paid. What you want is a fee-only advisor, which is different from a fee-based advisor. So for fee-based, they charge a fee and have commissions on the trades that they make. And even among fee-only, some charge hourly fees, some have annual retainer, some charge a percentage of all of your assets under management. Guess what? Right now, when we don't have anything, if we graduate with maybe what, excuse me, if we're lucky, $20,000, 2% of that is nothing. That's, what, 2% is what, maybe 200K a year? That's, $200 a year is nothing. But all of a sudden, when you have a $2 million portfolio and they are charging 2% of your assets, that is, $40,000 a year, almost your residence salary for things that you can do yourself. You guys are some of the brightest individuals alive. If you spend a few hours reading, um, some books, you can do a lot of what these people do. Okay. And if you do get help, split up financial planning with asset management, even if you get the same individual to do it. For financial planning, what you want is someone who will charge only an hourly fee or a flat annual fee, or a single flat fee for putting together a financial plan. Pay for asset management with a flat fee, even though like an asset under management fee is also acceptable so long as it's not too high. Again, good asset management, can be half as little as $1,000 to $5,000 a year. But I expect to pay a roughly $200 to $400 an hour for financial planning, and much of it should be face to face. And many of these expensive financial advisors may claim that whatever they charge should be based on the value they provide. That's silly argument. That's almost like a surgeon saying I should be paid millions and millions of dollars for a surgery because it gave that individual 10 more years of life. We believe, and I believe that value should be set by the market, the reasonable amount that is reflective of the education, the training of the professional, the risk and undertaking by the professional, the work that the professional puts in, and how rare the professional skills are. Again, an advisor provides different value to every client. If the value is greater than the fee, then the relationship will persist. If not, then it won't persist. Educate yourself financially. More knowledge is equal to more power. You will have more clarity and you'll be able to be more intentional about what you want when you do seek financial advice. Now, when it comes to contracts, you're done with residency or you're about to finish with residency, you're looking at contracts, and guess what? We've delayed gratification so long that all of a sudden someone puts a paper in front of you, lots and lots and lots of zeros behind that number, and you just sign it. Sometimes we don't even read over it, not knowing what exactly we've gotten ourselves into. Your first contract sets your financial trajectory. Small details can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. So, a few things to keep in mind: understand the true compensation structure. Don't focus on base salary alone. Know the productivity model is in an RVU based system that you're working in. Know the bonus threshold and how achievable they are. Know the timeline to earning your full potential. Scrutinize the non-compete clause. This is something that is under litigation. You know, I believe the Supreme Court has struck down much of the non-compete clause, but you still want to make sure. Sometimes they may include a geographic radius. You want to limit that as much as possible. And then sometimes they say you may not be able to work in this particular area for a number of years. This could it could force you to relocate if you leave a job. Consider the full benefits package, not just the salary. Sometimes we just look at the base salary and you're like, yep, it looks good to me. Look at the retirement match, the health insurance premiums you'll pay, the CME funds, the continuing medical education funds that are available, your pay time off and your call schedule, and how easy is it to take time off. Some practices may offer you 12 weeks off, but how easy is it to take that 12 weeks off? Excuse me. Sometimes a lower salary with better benefits can be financially superior. The salary is not everything. Consider everything in its totality. Know your malpractice coverage. Do you need tail insurance or tail coverage? Determine whether your coverage is occurrence policy versus claims made. So usually with occurrence policies, they cover incidents that happen during the policy period, regardless of when the claim is reported, even years after. But with the claims made policy, it only covers incidents that occur and are reported while the policy is active. So you will need tail coverage if that is the type of policy you have. And you need to determine who pays the tail, because it's not cheap. You're looking at $50,000 to $200,000. These are things that can be overlooked easily because we're eager to get money. Don't be so eager to sign. Take your time. This is the time when you hold the leverage. Again, you want to clarify this before signing. If you are going to private practice, understand the partnership track. Is partnership guaranteed or is it optional? What's the timeline for most people? 2 years, 3 years? Is it clear? I remember I recently interviewed at a practice, and in this whole city, everyone is like maybe 3 to 4 years to a partnership, and then there's one practice that's 8 years. And I'm like, why? So understand these things. And then there are some areas where it's just a single year, and you ask yourself, oh, if everyone is 2 to 3 or 4 years, how come this place is 1 year? Ask questions. Try to understand the buying cost and structure. Sometimes to become a partner, you have to buy into the practice, meaning you have to go out and take out money, usually anywhere from 250 to $1 million plus to buy into the practice. Well, guess what? You just finished, perhaps paying your student loans, and now you have to go and take out money and to buy into the practice. Those are all things to consider. Are you okay with that? because usually early in your career, you've not built enough wealth to simply just, pay out of pocket. Watch out for vague or non-transparent partnership terms. We'll let you know when you become partner. No, no, you should run away when you hear that. If they are vague about partnership terms, that's a red flag. And this is a crucial step. Have a contract lawyer review your contract, especially for those of you going into private practice. It can cost anywhere from $500 to $2,500, but it's well worth it. For those of you going into academia, sometimes you can't really, there really isn't much that you can negotiate, but have a trusted attendant or mentor. You can still have a contract lawyer even look at that, but have someone look at it, and preferably someone who's experienced and have worked in that institution for some time. In private practice, some practices, in academics, some practices pay everybody the same salary, everybody in the department the same salary. Sometimes it's graduated. Some pay you more the longer you've been there. So if you are an assistant professor versus associate versus a full professor, pay may be different. And what's the difference? You gotta know all of that. Like I said, don't be in a hurry to sign, shop around, meaning interview at different places, see what's out there. Know your market value, know your worth. Don't let someone determine what you're worth. Some practices may tell you, oh, you're inexperienced, you're just coming out of fellowship or residency, we can't pay you this much. You are fully trained and you're board certified. You are qualified. Don't let someone determine your value. Do your own shopping around and figure that out yourself. Otherwise, you will be lowballed. Okay, and this includes perhaps talking to former partners and employees in the place. Ask why they left the practice. Do your homework well. And again, don't be afraid to negotiate. Don't be afraid to ask for more. Don't be afraid to ask for more vacation time. Don't be afraid to ask for more CME funds. If you're into research, find ways that they can fund your research. This is the time that you have leverage, so use it wisely. And again, I always say the worst they can say is just no. Now I know time is running out. Just a few key things about becoming a rich doctor. Noel, do I have the permission to proceed or should we cut it short?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. The number one key to becoming a rich doctor. Everyone assumes you're rich anyways, right? As soon as you finish medical school, you tell people you are a doctor. No one cares whether you're a resident or a fellow. They all assume you're rich. But the key to becoming that is to live like a resident for at least a year or two. All right. Currently, you're living on 65 to 75K, and you've done so for the last 3 to 5 years. It does not hurt to do that for 1 to 2 more years. The challenge that you face is all of a sudden you have a 4 to 10 times increase in your income as an attending. And it happens overnight, right? July, for those of us graduating in June come, June 31st, you get your resident salary, and all of a sudden, July 31st or August 1st, someone is going to deposit anywhere from 15 to 45 or 50K in your account. It's crazy. You're almost making your resident salary in a month, and that comes with its challenges. And we've all heard about lifestyle creep. It happens so suddenly. So try your very best not to grow into that income suddenly. Try to smooth out that growth. Some do it. Some people even grow into their income before they become attendance. I had one medical school classmate, and he started this before even we got our residence salary. He went out and as soon as we graduated, bought a new Tesla and a brand new home. We all have those stories. We've all met people like that where suddenly they start maxing out credit cards, getting high-end car loans, large mortgages in anticipation of the large paycheck that's coming. Always keep in mind, tomorrow's money is not today's money. It's not guaranteed. Yeah, so don't spend tomorrow's money today. If you can live on a residence salary, maybe not the exact amount, perhaps even be generous to yourself. Live on double your residence salary or even three times your salary. Even with that, the vast majority of that additional income can be put towards increasing your wealth. You can do that by paying for a significant down payment on a home, paying off student loans or other debts that you may have, and saving for retirement and other long-term goals. So, for example, if your attending income was 400K, you could live on 150 and still have 250 left over to build wealth. Additionally, you're already working 60 to 80 hours a week as a resident. The hours is going to go down. You're not going to work as much. This is the longest that you're going to be working in your life. You want to be careful not to burn yourself as an attending. But maybe for a year or two, you could go the extra mile, maybe work similar or slightly fewer hours, and that can help you earn a bit more. Again, be careful not to burn yourself out. Medicine is a long, long game. We are in here for 30 plus years. That's what our career should look like. You don't want to be burned out, 5, 10 years. And if it does happen, it does happen. But be careful. Try to prevent burnout. What you do with your first paycheck matters. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. What you do with that first paycheck can tell me a lot about what the future is going to look like. So, how much debt did you pay off? How much credit card debt did you pay? How much student loans did you pay? How much did you use towards a down payment? When we look at what you did with that first paycheck, it tells a lot about what your financial journey is going to look like. Again, location, location, location. I admired those of you who live out in the East Coast and the West Coast. I'm from Texas, and I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how residents survive out there. So don't overlook, the cost of living in some of these areas. Consider state income, city income. So as an off, I did my intern year at Case Western in Cleveland, Ohio. And I have never paid more taxes in my life than I did living there. I had to pay state income where I lived. So I lived in one county. So I had to pay city taxes there. And then I worked in a different county. I had to pay taxes there. I could not wait to leave um, Cleveland and then go do residency in Tennessee where there's no in-state taxes. And now I'm in fellowship here in Texas, and again, there is no in-state taxes here. Consider all those things when you are interviewing. Number 4, get your family on the same page. I talked about delayed gratification. You're not the only one that's delayed your gratification. If you have a spouse, they've toiled alongside you all throughout medical school and residency. They've also had to deal with deferred gratification. Your kids, some of us by the time we finish the journey have even teenage kids, right? They too have put a lot on the back burner. And all of a sudden, the the big paycheck comes and everybody's ready. Everyone is like chomping at the bits. But it's important to talk about your financial plan as far in advance as possible so that there are no surprises when your disposable income doubles or triples. Again, moderation, all things help. You don't have to continue to live as a poor resident, chasing after free meals. But you do have to be moderate and not be excessive. Order your priorities. If you do live like a resident or slightly above a resident, you don't have to choose between all the many good options that you can do with your money. You really can have it all. And I gave an example here. If you're making 400K salary, you're paying roughly $120,000 in taxes. And that is something that's going to come as a big shock to all of you. Your tax bill is going to be more than what you earn in all of residency, sometimes in all of residency combined. That's pretty scary. But again, you can live on 150 and use 130 towards building wealth. And that can be split up into something like this: 40K in student loan payments, 23.5K in your retirement contributions. You can max out your Roth IRA, max out your spouse's Roth IRA, max out your HSA, and still have 44,000 left over that you can use for a down payment in the house. On this salary that you're living on, that is far above the average. It's almost double of what the median household income is. And if you do this for a year or two, you will set yourself up for financial success. Again, lastly, develop a housing plan. Nobody expects you to rent forever. But there are three main options that you should consider. The first is you can rent for 1 to 2 years as an attendant. And renting doesn't mean being in a small, cooped up apartment. You can rent a house. Okay, this allows you to see if you are a good fit for your job. There are countless stories of doctors moving to a place, buying a house immediately, and then 2, 3 months into their job, and they hate it and can't wait to move. This buys you that time. This allows you to boost your income and then save up to a 20% down payment, allowing you to get a great deal on your mortgage. Number two, you could use a physician's loan to buy the dream house that you want if you are sure that this job is going to be your permanent job. However, that comes at a trade-off. It comes with higher interest rate. The physician loans allow you to avoid what we call private mortgage insurance, or PMI. That is an additional insurance that your lender requires you to buy if you're putting less than 20% on the house. Again, the benefit of this is it allows you to save up to that 20% down payment while living in the house of your dreams. And then you can refinance once you've come up with that 20%, refinance that loan or use it towards your student loans. But the dangerous thing here is that money that is saved oftentimes goes to other things and not student loans or refinancing that loan or the down payment. And thirdly, you could purchase a starter home and then save the down payment for the dream house that you're looking for. And you save that within the starter home. So once you build enough equity within the starter home, you can then sell it and then go get that dream home. Or you can turn that starter home into an investment property. Student loan elimination plan. I won't spend too much time here, but there are a few key principles that I want you to walk away with. Option one is if you're like, I hate having this thing around my neck, I want to pay it off as quickly as possible, you can pursue that. that makes sense. Option 2 is that if you know you're going to work for a non-for-profit organization or hospital that qualifies for PSLF, and you're going to make 120 payments over the course of 10 years, you will qualify for PSLF. And then while in residency, you make just the minimum payments required using one of the, I think they have 3 or 4 different income-based repayment plans. But do keep in mind, the moment you become an attending, those payments essentially become regular payments, those income-based, because your discretionary income is going to have tripled or quadrupled. It's essentially going to be regular payments by the time you get out. Now, this is a good option for those of us who are in long training programs. So the orthopedic surgeons, the neurosurgeons, the radiologists, where you're already spending, anywhere from 5 to 7 years in a public institution anyways. So if you were to be in academia for 3 more years or 4, again, you can qualify for that. But don't simply accept a lower paying job at a non-for-profit hospital because you may qualify for PSLF. Look at the difference. Is it really worth it? And then the third option is you can stretch out your student loans for as long as possible. I am not a fan of this, but mathematically, it kind of makes sense, right? So you can refinance, consolidate all of your student loan, refinance for a very, very low rate of 1 to 3%, and then pay it off as long as you can. And what you're doing there is we're basically leveraging that low interest rate with the rate of investment, right? So rather than throwing your money at student loans, you're investing at 5 to 8%. I personally am not a fan of this. But advice, if you're going to go this route, or even not, my advice to you is do not refinance your loans while in residency. The moment you refinance your public loans with a private lender, it no longer qualifies for PSLF. And so don't be in a hurry to just consolidate. And you can visit this website, studentaid.org, for more details on the individual plans. Financial priority list for an attending. So when you become an attendant, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of this. But the key things is, get the employer match, pay off high interest rates, debt such as credit cards, maximize your tax deferred retirement. When you become an attending, I want to emphasize this. You are now at a very, very high tax rate. And so what you want to do is don't make Roth contributions at this time because that is the highest tax rate you are in. Rather, you want to defer the taxes for when you retire, because when you retire, you will be making less than what you made as an attendant. So you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. So again, as a resident, Roth is the way to go. As an attending, go the traditional route. You can fund HSA accounts. This account here is beautiful. When you become an attendant, try to max it out each year. And it's triple tax advantage, meaning you use pre-tax money on it. You don't have to pay tax on the contribution. No tax on the growth, and no taxes on withdrawal when used for qualified medical expenses. And guess what? When you turn 65, it can be withdrawn penalty-free for any purpose, essentially mimicking what we call a retirement account. So we call this a stealth IRA, meaning it's disguised as a as it's HSA, but it's actually a disguised individual retirement account. Okay. Fund your personal and spousal backdoor Roth IRAs. Fund a college savings plan. If you have kids, start saving for them now. 529. Part of living the good life, in my opinion, is providing your kids with some of the privileges that you may not have had. You know, it will be cool, if your kids never had to borrow for college. That should be a goal. And you do that by using the 529 account. Then pay off moderate interest debt, save for a down payment for a house. If you use the physician mortgage, basically pay it down and then convert to a conventional rate. Add additional funding to your 529s. You can now, invest in taxable accounts, pay off low interest rates, student loan debt, for example, and then you can make extra payments on your mortgage. As a physician, you should be able to pay off your mortgage in 15 years. Don't go for the traditional 30-year mortgage. And even if you do, you can still pay it off early. You should be able to pay it off in less than 10 years. And as a general advice, we recommend that at any point in time, your mortgage, the full value of your mortgage, should not be more than twice your income. So, for example, if you're making 500K, the general financial advisors don't have a mortgage more than $1 million. It doesn't mean your house should not be more than $1 million. If you do put a large down payment, you can account for that. And then in any given time, you should not spend more than 20% of your income on house payments. That's how people become house poor. And then invest in a account low risk, low interest rate or low risk investments such as municipal bonds. And then lastly, spend your money on what makes you happy. You've worked hard. Med school is hard. Residency is hard. Life is hard. Enjoy the benefits and the fruits of your labor. And now I want to really, really paint the vision that you can have for your life. Sometimes people don't have, because they don't have this vision, they kind of lose track of how important this is. So if you are investing, let's say $5,000 a month, so the year is roughly 60K. And this can be in different accounts spread out. And if you do so in what I recommend, low cost index funds, meaning they cost very, very little. So there's one particular fund in Fidelity, FXAIX. There's like the expense ratio is like 0.015%, meaning for every $1,000 that you invest, it costs 15 cents. So very, very cheap, but it has high return. So if invest in low cost index funds that track the S&P, you will make it. You will be a multimillionaire by the time your career is over. All right. And on average, the S&P has yielded 10 to 12% since its inception in 1957. If you account for inflation, which is roughly 2 to 2.5% each year, you are looking anywhere from 8 to 10% returns on your investment. Now, using that same mindset, I will conservatively use the returns of 8%. This is the power of compound interest. So after the first year of doing this thing, yes, you contributed what, $60,000. By the end of the year, you've earned 2,169. So for a total of 62,000 on your investment. You fast forward 5 years, you're still doing this each month, 5,000. Look at that. All of a sudden, your total contributions over the 5 years, so 60,000 times 5 is 300,000. But now your interest that you've earned is 64,000 for a total portfolio of 364,000. You keep that up for 10 years, and already things are looking great. This is where investing gets fun. This is where, remember when I told you your first dollars that you invest today will be doing the heavy lifting. Now they begin to really, really muscle up and do the heavy lifting here. All in all, over 10 years, so 60,000 each year over the course of 10 years, you've contributed $600,000. But look at your interest now. Almost half of your contributions. And now your portfolio is now $900,000. Keep that up for another 5 years. So now you've been investing for 15 years. And look at that. 900,000 of your principal or total contributions. And now the interest is almost as much as your contributions. Now you're already a millionaire. All right. Let's look at 20 years. You've contributed $1.2 million. And guess what? Your returns are now 1.6 million. So now your interest is more than what you've been contributed for a total value of $2.8 million. Do that for 25 years. Your total interest is more than double what you actually contributed. All right. You know, it is Albert Einstein who said, compound interest is the seventh wonder of the world. Those who understand it will earn it. Those who don't will pay it. Let your money work for you. Now look at that. You have a $4.5 million portfolio. And most of it is what? Compound interest. You do that for 30 years. So assume you're about 30 years right now. By the time you're 60 years old, you should be a multi-millionaire. This is the picture and the vision that I'm trying to get. Look at that. Your contribution is 1.8. However, the interest you've earned at this point is now $5.2 million. 35 years. Your interest you've earned is 8.6, and you've only contributed $2 million. More than quadruple the amount you've contributed. With now a portfolio of $10 million. This is doable. This is possible. But in order to achieve it, you have to do the groundwork first. So the good life that I spoke about, for me, it's not about piling up as much money as possible and then going home and throwing piles of money on yourself and being happy. That is not the good life. That is actually a very miserable life. For me, the good life is about living a purpose-filled life, doing good and meaningful work, nurturing your key relationships, creating wonderful memories with those you love, and then being outrageously generous. What is your good life? And how can you shape your finances to help reflect that? Here are my references. And if you have any questions or concerns or comments, you're welcome to reach out to me. This is my email address. And I want to thank Dr. Sapon and all the leadership of the GPSF for having me today. I appreciate you also for spending time with me on your Easter. And I hope you took out something meaningful from this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Opoku. If there are any last minute questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute. I think there was a question in the beginning that said, can you please explain what you mean by not comparing the cost of mortgage payments with the cost of rent?
Yeah. So many people just say, oh, my mortgage is $2,000 and my rent is $2,000. So if they're equivalent, why not I just go get a mortgage and own the house and get equity in the house? And the mistake that they make is they don't factor in the cost of owning a home and how long it takes to actually build equity. Because the initial payments that you make in the house for the first about 6 to 8 years actually goes towards interest first before you start making headway on the principal. So that's what I meant by don't make that mistake.
And then question about if we can have a copy of these slides, please.
Yes, I will send it to Noelle,
And I'll
and
send it to you guys.
she can share it with you all.
Thank you. Any other last minute questions, comments? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Cook. We really appreciate the time and the effort you put into giving us this wonderful presentation. And we're all going to become rich doctors because of you.
You can
Thank
all
you.
do it. I believe in you, and I would love nothing more than to see that. Thank you. You all have
Hi. I had a
great
quick
rest of your
question.
day.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi.
we can hear
Just a
you.
quick question. So, you already mentioned the book, and then obviously there are several different podcasts, things of that nature. But do you have any other resources to mention, whether it be websites? I know you put up your email, so I'm assuming we can also contact you for like any other questions in that way. But do you have any other resources you want to mention quickly?
Yeah, so the main thing, this book is great. It's a great
Okay.
starter. Do you all see it?
Yeah. No, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
That the
They have a podcast that is quite extensive. Um, I have some YouTube channels that I like to also watch. I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. The Money Guy or the Money Guy podcast on YouTube.
Could you also like send that to her as well to send with
Yeah,
you know, with the
yes, I will include that in the email to her.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
All right.
questions? Okay. Well,
Okay. All
thank
right.
you.
Happy Easter. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a good night, everybody. Yes, it was recorded. Surely.
Good night. Thank you.